Hey guys, what's up? I have another One Piece Around the World video for you guys, so let's just get right into it. I will have 3 characters, 1 Dreadnought, 1 Buccaneer, and 1 Tactician, which if you don't remember is a tank, DPS, and support in that order. And the 3 characters I chose were chosen by a wheel, so basically I just had random characters from the selection that I had, but not concepted fully. Like for instance, my DPS was initially going to be Vasco Shot, but then I couldn't find enough, and unlike some characters like Mihawk, where he's pretty simple, and he has no Devil Fruit, so it'd be easy to just theorize and give him a general move that I could easily change. Vasco Shot, the way Oda is, you could convince me Vasco Shot could do damn near anything and I would believe you. So yeah, that's why we changed some of them, like Vasco Shot or Stussy for the DPS and support respectively. So yeah, we will have different ones, but hey, if you're good at Silhouette Piece, you'll know who's on the thumbnail. Alright, we are going to begin with our Dreadnought. Now, our Dreadnought, if you saw the thumbnail, you might have guessed, it is Crocodile. Now, Crocodile has 2 passives, 3 abilities, an ultimate, and a primary and secondary fire. So he has the maximum amount of abilities that people can have in our little game, and we're going to start talking about his passives. Alright, so Crocodile has 2 passives, Dehydration and Now I Remember. Basically, Dehydration is based off his secondary gimmick, aside from being Logia, which is dehydrating enemies. So I'll give you the description now of the passive. All of Crocodile's hacks make progress to dehydrate the target. If a target becomes dehydrated, they are slowed by 50%. This was to give him sort of a tanking ability thing, but overall just on his entire kit, so he could be more DPS-y than necessarily tanky, but he still has some tanky qualities. Next, his passive, Now I Remember, is based off the fact that when he was in Paradise on Alabasta, he got weaker from when he was able to challenge Whitebeard with confidence, So, here's the description for Now I Remember. When using any ability excluding his primary and secondary fire, Crocodile can hold the ability button to use the more powerful variant of said ability, but it results in a longer cooldown or slower ult generation for a short period of time, which we will get to during those parts of this concept. So, let's move on to his primary and secondary fire. Crocodile's primary fire is called Barjon. Basically, Crocodile will swing his right arm forward to leave a trail of sand for a short period of time, which, if an enemy steps into it, will slowly start dehydrating them. This would be an infinite/no ammo ability because it's just a melee attack, but with a little bit of a status. And I decided to put it on his primary because if it was just on his secondary, the build-up would have to be more. But if you go on his primary, you could do a little bit of comboing to get the most dehydration generation for your abilities by putting in some primary fires here and there. So I just figured it could help deepen his skill ceiling. Next is his secondary fire, Desert Encero, I believe is what it's called. Crocodile will grab an enemy, basically stab them with his hook hand, and then quickly build up dehydration / stun them before throwing them back down. This would be a 12-second cooldown. Now, what I mean by that is, since the act of stabbing them and lifting them up, kind of like he did Luffy, that is technically a stun, so I just put that in my notes. So it'd be a stab, lift, that's your stun, and then quickly builds dehydration and throws you back there from where he grabbed you from. This is just to give him a little bit of crowd control while also getting in that iconic pose, because you can recreate it with Luffy and Crocodile in game. Ooh, fun! On to Crocodile's first ability, it's called Dust Bowl, which is his Logia ability that every other Logia in the game has, minus Blackbeard, of course. Anyway, Crocodile will turn to sand and fan out his body in a short area around him, to not take any damage for himself, but the added bonus is that any projectile shot into him will have a chance to be absorbed or blocked. This will result in a 10 to 12 second cooldown. We're basically just adding a little bit more defensive quality to the usual Logia ability, kind of like how Sabo has, except Crocodiles will be able to block damage. Now, the other variant of this, if you hold it down, is that he will move slower, but he will absorb more projectiles. This will be on a 14 second cooldown. So, it's a 2-second increase, but you could theoretically have a thing where you do it for mobility and self-protection, or for overall team protection, and since you don't take any damage anyway, I don't see a reason really not to. His second ability is called Desert Spada, or Desert Sword, which if you played Blox Fruits, that's his iconic ability from his Devil Fruit in the game. Anyway, Crocodile will form his right hand into a loose blade of sand and then extend it along the ground. This would be a 6 to 8 second cooldown, gives him some range, pretty simple, pretty self-explanatory. It'd be a single line area around it, you'd take damage, right? Now, his other variant of this is called Desert La Spada, which is an upgraded version by holding down the ability, obviously. And this time, it would form, I would say, 4 to 5 blades, and it would do more like an arc rather than a straight line in front of him. So it would be less direct damage, but it would be more AoE damage, And this would be on 8 to 10 second cooldown. Because overall, I think I did these just by a 2-second increase, give or take, just because is. Like, for instance, the Logia thing and even this, it's like situational. Like, okay, do I want to protect my team? Do I want AoE damage or do I want direct damage or more mobility? You know, I'm trying to give you choices, but make you actually think about it rather than just saying, I'm just going to hold it for the longer cooldown. Crocodile's third ability is called Sables. He'll summon a tornado of sand and send it forward. Pretty simple, 10 to 12 second cooldown. Think Tatsumaki in our Buccaneer video for Zoro. Then the upgraded version is Sable's Pasado, I believe. Crocodile gathers a swirling mass of extremely dense sand in his hand by holding the ability button. Then he'll hurl it at the opponent, causing a shockwave upon impact. This would be a 12 to 14 second cooldown, which I believe in Blox Fruits it's called Dense Sand. Now, the reason I didn't just go for a bigger or faster tornado was because it's boring. Like, for like certain things, like, I'll bring up Zoro again. For Zoro, I gave him a little dash ability, and then his ultimate is also a dash. But the difference is his ultimate does big old damage and hits multiple enemies, while his other dash only hits one enemy and is mostly movement. So, like, I wanted certain things to not just be better versions of other things, even though in this it would make more sense, it would be boring. And I don't want to be boring, I want to give you options with Crocodile. Finally, for Sir Crocodile, we have his ultimate, or his two ultimates really. Ground Secco. Crocodile places his hand on the ground, uses Devil Fruit to dry the huge area around him, doing damage and rapidly building dehydration. Now, the other variant is called Ground Death, which is, in show a stronger version. But this time, it'll build dehydration faster and do a bigger AoE in it, but at the cost of the first 10% of his next ultimate being slowed generation. So let's say he builds it at 10 points per second and he needs 100 points, right? Then we'd knock it down to, let's say, 5 or 8 points per second for the first 10%, That's the idea here. But yeah, that was our Crocodile concept, and I hope you liked it. If you have any suggestions, please comment them down below, and I will reply to every single comment I can, whether I already have them on my list, or if I'm going to add them, because I can see something there. Even if I can't see something there, I will probably still put it on my list anyway, because if something is revealed, like let's say Rocks or Loki, they're going in here as soon as I know enough, So yeah, anyway, we're going to move on to our Buccaneer and then Steward. Alright, I'm going to give you a second to guess our Buccaneer. 3, 2, 1. If you guessed Monet, you would be correct. Why would you guess Monet? I don't know, maybe you saw the silhouette and was like, that's Monet. But yeah, we're going to do Monet in this one. So like Crocodile, I gave Monet some unique things, but first let's get on to her passive, Harpy Body. Monet is always flying, unless she has Ice Wing swords equipped, which, will be one of her primaries. That's right, we have a weapon swap finally, and also her passive is just Marco's, but with a condition of her weapon swap. As I mentioned previously, Monet has 2 primary fires, and I'll tell you them both now, and I'll go into the description of them, when I get to them. So first we have Feather Ice Shards. So basically, Monet will swipe her wings to shoot 2 icy feathers at a time to slow down enemies at a range. Each feather gives 2% slow, capping at 20%, which, means you have to hit them a few times. If you hit every single feather, which they would be like more of a dunk dunk, not a dunk 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 out of each wing. So yeah, kind of like that. Her ammo would be a resource, think Mantis from Marvel Rivals, kind of. Just, it's her primary and not her healing. And running out of this resource will automatically make her swap to her Ice Wing sword, which we will get into now. Monet's Ice Wing swords go like this. Monet grounds herself and swipes her wings to slash at enemies in close range, making them slower as she hits them. Each hit generates 5% slow, capping at 20%. The reason I gave her a slow as well, basically always, is because she has the Snow fruit, and so it just made sense. And the reason that the slow generation is faster on her melee, because that's what the Ice Wing swords are, they are melee, is because it's melee. You have to get up and close, so you need to account for that by giving some power to it in exchange for having no range, basically. So yeah, that is her primary. Monet has no secondary because she has the weapons, but she has an ability 1, 2, and ultimate, so let's get into those. Her ability 1 is called Winter Breeze. It is her Logia ability / Flight Dash, because when I was thinking about it, I was like, okay, do what Marco did and Logia's, so I just combined these into one ability. I thought about having them separate, but it'd be too clunky. So, Winter Breeze. Monet uses her Harpy Wings and Devil Fruit together to boost herself in any direction and become temporarily intangible. When Ice Wing swords are equipped, this ability becomes more of a dash rather than a flight boost. It'd be a 10 to 12 second cooldown. Now, if you've played Marvel Rivals, think of it kind of like Ultron's dash, like his flight boost, where basically he would dash in a direction, so super fast dash, and then he would be faster while flying. This is the same concept, except during that dash, Ultron would be intangible, except Ultron's Monet. But you get the general idea, I hope. And if you don't, download Marvel Rivals real quick or see something for Ultron, and then just think about it, you'll see what I mean. Monet's ability 2 is called Chilling Screech. Monet screeches in a cone in front of her to rapidly slow those caught in the cone. This would be a 6 to 8 second cooldown. Now, I didn't actually put what the slow would be, but I think it would be one of those things where it wouldn't be lingering. It would just literally be for the duration. So let's say like 30% or 20%. Let's keep it with 20%. 20% max, right? Then it'd be like a rah! It'd be like 1% per second. Not what it would be because that'd be 20 seconds, but you know what I mean. You guys get the idea? So maybe it's like a 3-second duration and then the cooldown starts after. So she could build like 7 per second or something. Or it would just rapidly build endless, I don't know. But just general idea of it because that's what most of these are. It's just general ideas. Now, finally, for her ultimate, Fubuki. I did think about giving her her Icy Hut, but I thought that'd be too boring, so I gave her Blizzard or Fubuki. Now, Monet will fold her wings around herself, then fan them out to spray snow from her mouth in a cone in front of her to freeze her enemies. Enemies will slowly generate the freeze effect over time, and after a total of 3 seconds of being hit, the enemy will be frozen. It does go through enemies, so body blocking cannot occur, but it is blocked by environment or barriers. And then this ultimate lasts for a total of 5 seconds. Now, I will say, this would need some reworking, I think, because I would probably have to make it conditional for like certain blocking abilities from tanks to work and others not so much. So that way it's just not completely nullified because I realize I don't really have any barriers. But yeah, that we'd get into that. This is just concept. Now finally onto our steward, which if you guess our steward, you're a crazy person. I'll give you 3 seconds to figure out who it is. 1, 2, 3. It's Jango! That's right, you heard me right. It is Jango from the Serb Village arc, who is now a Marine. So yeah, let's get into his passive. I call his passive Smooth Criminal. When Jango moves backwards, he moves at full speed, and obviously he'd be moonwalking when moving back. This is just fun and silly. Most of them, it would be kind of like Overwatch, where it's like a 90% speed when you're moving backwards. Not Jango, he goes full. Now for Jango's primary fire, Chakram. Jango will throw his Chakram forward to deal damage. They can bounce off walls once, and they can bounce from one enemy to another at reduced damage, but only once. So think of it like a crappier Moon Knight, but he can heal, so it's like, okay, that's fair enough. Jango's ability 1 is called Rhythmic Move. Basically, Jango will start standing in place and dancing, providing allies within 10 meters of him a speed boost and resistant to status effects. Jango cannot move around but is unaffected by CC. This would be a 10 to 13 second cooldown. And what I mean by resistance to status effects would be like if somebody gets sleeped, maybe they would be slept for less time, or if it was a slow, the slow would be like cut in half. So if it's like Monet and her range thing, it would only be 1% per hit, not 2. That's the idea there. Next is Jango's ability 2, which is his main healing ability. I call it Hypno Snap. Basically, Jango will snap his fingers, and allies within 25 meters of him will receive a burst heal. This would be a 3 to 4 second cooldown. So it'd be like decent healing, probably with the healing over time. But this is just kind of the idea, is he's hypnotizing them into healing. Bam, 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 That's, I just thought that'd be a cool idea. Next is his third ability called Snap Out of It. Jango will blow a marine whistle at an ally to remove any and all status effects from them. The ally receives a small burst heal. This would be a 10 to 15 second cooldown. I figured he needed another way to heal people, but not like crazily. And then also I figured I could probably use a cleanse, since there's a lot of things that can build up certain statuses. Like for instance, Boa Hancock's Petrified, then you have the general slows, then you have dehydration slow, then you have other stuff from other characters I'm probably not even remembering off the top of my head. So this was probably a good idea to have at some point, and I figured why not do it with Jango. That's funny. And finally, Jango's ultimate. I call it Hypnotic Strength. Jango will select one ally or himself and hypnotize them to buff them. The player affected will be healed by 50% of their max health, so if they have 200, they'll be healed for 100, and then they will do 75% more damage, or 1.75 times damage, and take 30% less damage. Basically, nano boost, but he can use it on himself and any other ally. Just not at the same time, obviously, that would be too good, but yeah, I figured why not? Let's just do some crazy stuff. We already had Usopp have Anna sleep, and then we had, I think, and then we had Doc Q do anti-heal, I believe. So, why not have Jango do a cleanse and a nano? I mean, I think this is fun. But anyway, that's about it. And once more, comment any and every character you want, and I will reply to every comment I can, letting you know whether I already have them on my list, whether I'm working on them, or if I will add them to the list because you brought up a good point. So please don't be shy to suggest, I don't know, somebody like Oven, and then give me a general idea of like an ability or two or a cool idea you had, a passive, a status, whatever. I don't care. Suggest anything you want. Suggest me more maps and modes. I might make another video on that. Who knows? But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.